That evening, in the brightly lit living room in Scottsdale, surrounded by the cheerful laughter of family, one moment turned the celebration into a wound that would never fade. I, Rachel Morgan, a 29-year-old nurse living in Phoenix, had prepared a birthday gift with all my sincerity for my mother-in-law. But instead of a word of gratitude, I watched Linda Hayes, a 55-year-old woman, owner of a small real estate office and my own mother-in-law, coldly toss the gift into the trash in front of everyone. The image of the elegant box hitting the bottom with a dull thud made my heart tighten. I could feel the pity mixed with disdain in the eyes of the relatives, while my husband, Michael, just sat in silence. In that instant, I knew this wasn't just a simple insult, but an open declaration of war aimed directly at my dignity and my place in this family. When silence kills self-respect, when someone is pushed to the edge, do you think they will choose to endure or to fight back? In the world of revenge stories, sometimes the one who seems the weakest is the one who delivers the blow that shocks everyone. And for me, what happened that night was only the beginning. This was only the beginning. My name is Rachel Morgan, 29 years old, a night shift nurse at Phoenix General Hospital. My job is far from easy. Endless nights caring for patients, the constant beeping of monitors, the sharp smell of disinfectant clinging to my hair and clothes. But I still love what I do because it makes me feel useful, like I'm making a difference. Outside of work, I'm quiet, introverted, and I value kindness and dignity above all else. I always believed that if I were sincere enough, my husband's family would open their hearts to me. But reality turned out to be very different. My husband, Michael Hayes, 31, is a civil engineer at a large firm in Phoenix. He's kind, hardworking, responsible, but far too hesitant when caught between me and his mother. He loves me, but his attachment to his family, especially to her, makes him weak in moments that truly matter. That's the very weakness Linda Hayes, my mother-in-law, uses to control everyone. Linda is 55, a widow, and owns a small real estate office in Scottsdale. She's known for being meticulous, always wanting things her way. At family gatherings, Linda sits in her glossy brown leather armchair, holding a glass of red wine, her gaze sweeping across the table like a queen handing out favors. And me? Every time I walk into her spacious home, with its glowing fireplace and the large oil painting hanging in the living room, I feel like an outsider, even though I've been her daughter-in-law for 2 years. "Rachel, can you bring more appetizers to the table?" Linda often says, her voice half request, half command. I force a smile, answer, "Yes, Mom," and remind myself to endure. But deep down, I know she has never truly accepted me. The Hayes family has an unspoken rule called the Hayes Law. Anyone who makes a mistake, big or small, must apologize publicly at the next gathering. It sounds fair, but in reality, Linda wields it as a tool to maintain her authority. She forces others to bow their heads, while she herself has never once admitted to being wrong. That very rule would later become my card to turn the tables. I've tried countless times to win her over. I learned to cook the herb-roasted chicken she likes, saved a month's wages to bring an Italian wine she favored, and often gave her bouquets of white lilies, knowing she loved their sweet scent. Yet every time, all I received in return was a frown or a cold, cutting remark. One evening, after a family dinner while Michael and I cleaned up, I asked, "Do you think your mom will ever truly see me as part of this family?" He sighed, wiped his hands on a dish towel, and said, "She just needs time, don't take it too hard." I stayed silent, staring at the silver bracelet on my wrist, the birthday gift Michael gave me last year, and wondered how much longer time was supposed to take. The difference in how Linda treated me compared to Amanda, my sister-in-law, became impossible to ignore. Amanda worked at a bank, always knew how to say the right flattering words, and gave Linda expensive gifts. Linda praised Amanda as the perfect daughter-in-law, while I was nothing but a shadow in the background. Many times I saw Amanda sitting beside Linda on the green velvet sofa, both of them laughing like they were sharing some private secret. The feeling of being left out made me both sad and angry. Every family gathering felt like an exam I was destined to fail. I tried, I endured, I smiled, but Linda's condescending gaze pierced right through my self-respect. And then, one day, when I thought I had grown used to the coldness, something unusual happened. A signal that the real storm was drawing near. Linda's birthday this year was held on a late weekend afternoon, inside her grand house in Scottsdale. The living room sparkled with golden balloons, a three-tiered cake sat proudly in the center, and red wine glistened in crystal glasses. The air was lively at first, filled with laughter and chatter echoing through the house. I walked in, carrying a box wrapped in elegant silver paper. Inside was the pearl necklace I had saved for months to buy. I truly believed this would be my chance to bridge the gap between me and my mother-in-law. I stepped closer, smiling as I handed the gift to Linda. "Happy birthday, Mom. I hope you'll like it." Linda lifted the box, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. Slowly, she opened the lid, glanced at the necklace, and then let out a cold laugh. "A cheap pearl necklace? Do you really think I'd wear this?" Her words sliced into me like a knife. The whole room went silent, every gaze fixed on me, mixing pity with disdain. I could see Amanda pressing her lips to hide a smirk, while Michael, he just stood there, silent. Then the unthinkable happened. Linda didn't just insult me, she grabbed the entire gift box and flung it straight into the trash can in the corner. The harsh thud echoed, leaving me frozen in place. Heat rushed to my face, my heart pounded, my eyes burned. All the preparation, the hope, the effort to fit in over 2 years, crushed in a single moment. I bit my lip to stop the tears, but my trembling hands betrayed me. I caught whispers drifting through the room. "How embarrassing! Maybe she doesn't understand Linda's taste." Each murmur felt like needles piercing my pride. Amanda leaned close, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. "Next time, try a gift with real value, Rachel." I turned toward Michael, begging silently for him to speak, but he only clenched his fists, avoiding my eyes. In that moment, I realized I was completely alone. And then, after the party, I stumbled upon something that left me even more bitter. While cleaning up, Linda's phone buzzed on the table, flashing an email notification. I hadn't meant to pry, but the subject line was clear. "Refund request, Jewelry Boutique Scottsdale." A chill ran down my spine. Evidence email 8:47 p.m. Requesting refund for pearl necklace. Transaction from yesterday. That message proved Linda had a habit of treating gifts like cash vouchers. For me, tossing the necklace in the trash wasn't just humiliation, it was a calculated move to disgrace me in front of the entire family. On the ride home, I stared silently out the car window, the streetlights blurring past. Michael fumbled for words. "Don't take it to heart, Mom's just a little difficult." I laughed bitterly. "Difficult? You call throwing my gift in the trash in front of everyone difficult?" He stayed silent, and the distance between us had never felt so stark. That night, back in our small apartment in Phoenix, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty box I had once wrapped with so much care. Shame filled me to the brim. I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer, though I hadn't yet seen the path forward. Deep inside, a storm was forming. I didn't know what I would do, but I knew I wouldn't let it go. My pain had turned into fire, and I had no idea then worse was coming. But worse was coming. After that birthday party, the atmosphere in the Hayes family changed in ways I never could have imagined. At first, I thought the incident would quickly fade away, but the truth was the opposite. It became the spark that set off a chain of events, each one pushing me further into isolation, stripping me of standing, until I was forced to choose between silent endurance or open defiance. The first complication came just a few days later. I was at the hospital for a night shift, and during a break, I overheard 2 coworkers whispering. They said Linda had been telling everyone about my birthday gift. "Fake pearls, can you believe it? That's hilarious." One of them chuckled, then glanced at me awkwardly. My stomach dropped. The story hadn't stayed confined to Linda's living room. It had spread through relatives and even her friends. The trigger was her act of throwing away my gift. The reaction was Linda turning it into a running joke to humiliate me. The minor outcome was my reputation, even outside the family, being tainted with mockery. When I got home, I asked Michael, "Your mom is telling people about the pearl necklace, isn't she?" He sighed, avoiding my eyes. "She just mentioned it, don't be so sensitive." I said nothing, but inside, I felt another knife twist into what little dignity I had left. The second complication struck at the next family gathering a week later. Linda sat in her polished armchair, Amanda glowing at her side. Linda scanned the room and then said loudly, Some people here need to learn how to pick meaningful gifts. Amanda knows exactly what I like. I'm proud to have such a thoughtful daughter-in-law." The whole room applauded. I sat nearby, forcing a brittle smile while inside a fire burned. The trigger was Linda holding Amanda up as the golden example. My reaction was clenching my hands so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. The minor outcome was my role being further diminished, while Amanda was elevated as the standard I would never meet. After dinner, I overheard Amanda whisper to Linda in the hallway, "Don't worry, everyone can see I'm the better one." Linda answered with a satisfied smile. The third complication struck at my marriage itself. One evening, Michael handed me a set of documents Linda had sent. "Mom wants me to transfer part of our joint account for her to manage. She says it's just to make sure our finances are safe." My eyes widened. "You're actually considering this?" Michael rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "She makes a good point. She's just looking out for us." I realized I was losing my place even in my own home. The trigger was Linda hinting at financial control. Michael's reaction was leaning toward her, while I reacted with outrage that he dismissed as extreme. The minor outcome was another crack in the trust between us. That night, I sat alone in our bedroom, staring into the dark balcony, feeling like the world itself was turning its back on me. Then one late night, while checking my work email, I stumbled on something that made my breath stop. A message had been mistakenly sent to my old secondary inbox, one once linked to a family group. Its contents crushed me. Evidence, family group message 10:15 p.m. Linda wrote, "Rachel is just a nurse. What's there to be proud of? She'll never be on Amanda's level. We need to keep Michael from making bad decisions because of her." Reading those words felt like a stone pressing down on my chest. It wasn't just about the gift anymore. Linda had made me her permanent target. I thought of the times I had been ordered to clean up, the sharp comments, the condescending glances. Strung together, they painted a clear picture. I had never been accepted, only singled out to be erased. In the end, I realized I wasn't just facing contempt. I was facing a long-term scheme to strip me of dignity, love, and independence. Linda had already succeeded in isolating me from the family, and little by little, even Michael was slipping from my side without her lifting much of a finger. What I didn't know was that Linda wasn't finished. She was preparing to push even further, to overreach, and that reckless step would become the turning point of everything. And that was when the storm truly began. I had thought Linda's cruelty toward me would stop at disdain and sharp-edged mockery. But little by little, small clues revealed a larger picture. A scheme more calculated than I had ever imagined. This wasn't just about a gift thrown into the trash. It was an entire plan to push me out of the Hayes family, step by step, layer by layer, until I was nothing more than a shadow. The truth became clearer when I ran into my best friend, Kelly Brown, at a cafe near the hospital. Kelly, a quick-witted reporter, had a sharp eye for details. After I told her everything that had happened, she leaned in and whispered, "Rachel, don't you think Linda is building a narrative to cast you as the outsider? I'm telling you, Amanda is playing the same game with her." I frowned, not sure how to respond, until Kelly pulled out a printed email she had obtained from a contact at the bank where Amanda worked. Evidence. Internal email, 5:32 p.m. Amanda to Linda, "I managed to make Michael believe Rachel is financially irresponsible. If you push harder, he'll let you manage the account." Reading those words froze my blood. Amanda wasn't just a passive ally. She was orchestrating alongside Linda, both of them staging a play designed to isolate me piece by piece. They weren't only trying to smear me in front of the family. They were plotting to cut me out of every important decision, including money and marriage. I felt utterly defeated. Every small effort I had made to win approval, to prove I was worthy, had been twisted and used against me. I remembered Amanda's mocking smiles, Linda's cold stares, Michael's cowardly silence. When I pieced it all together, I realized I had been caught in a trap set long ago. One evening, after a grueling night shift, I came home to find Michael sitting with Linda and Amanda in our living room. On the table lay a stack of financial papers. Linda's voice dripped with feigned sweetness. "Rachel, I only want to help you two manage things better. You know, as a nurse, you may not understand finances the way Amanda does." Amanda chimed in, smiling, We're just looking out for Michael. I froze, staring at Michael, waiting for him to defend me. Instead, he said quietly, "Honey, maybe it wouldn't hurt to let Mom help." The words struck like a fatal blow. I stood there, hollow inside, realizing I had been pushed out of every meaningful decision in my own marriage. That night, I sat alone on our balcony, watching the streetlights flicker. In my mind, I saw again the pearl necklace in the trash, Linda's smirk, Amanda's triumphant eyes. I felt like I had already lost, cornered, with no way out. The next day, at the hospital, I found a strange envelope in my locker. Inside was a printed log of a transaction from a Scottsdale jewelry boutique. It listed Linda Hayes as the customer under refund, with the note, "Refund completed, jewelry, pearl necklace." A shiver ran down my spine. Evidence, transaction log 2:06 p.m., pearl necklace refund, customer Linda Hayes. Now the puzzle was complete. Linda hadn't just humiliated me publicly, she had a habit of returning gifts for cash, then using that to ridicule others. Amanda quietly backed her up, feeding her information and reinforcing the false story. Together, they had built a conspiracy to weaken me and push me out of the family circle. That evening, I stared at my old notebook where I usually scribbled shift notes. On the last page, I scrawled a single line. "They want me to be an outsider. They want me erased." Tears fell, blurring the ink. But alongside the despair, a new thought flickered alive. I remembered the Hayes Law, the unspoken family rule that anyone who did wrong must apologize publicly at the next gathering. And suddenly I realized, if I could turn the game against them, using their own rule, I could corner Linda and Amanda with no way out. I sat motionless for a long time, listening to the cars passing outside like a steady drumbeat. Inside me, humiliation and defeat hardened into a cold flame. I didn't yet know how or when, but one thing was certain. If Linda wanted to play this game, I would strike back within her own rules. And it would not just be a confrontation, it would be revenge carved deep into the memory of this family. I closed the notebook, my eyes dry and clear. In my head, only one thought echoed. The game isn't over. I had begun to think of revenge, and my weapon would be the very rule they once used to force me to bow my head. I knew very well that if all I did was cry or retreat, I would never earn respect in this family. Linda and Amanda had crossed the line, and what I needed now was not endurance, but retaliation. Yet to take on someone as cunning and controlling as Linda, someone who always had an ally by her side, I couldn't act recklessly. I needed a real plan, cold and meticulous, strong enough to rip away the mask they wore. I remembered the articles my best friend Kelly Brown had written about community scandals. She had once told me that if you wanted to flip the game, you needed undeniable evidence, credible witnesses, perfect timing, and one decisive strike that left the opponent defenseless. For several nights, I sat writing out my plan word by word, shaping it into 4 clear phases under a principle I named for myself. Cage, collect, align, gamble, edge. The first phase was collect. I began gathering everything that could prove Linda and Amanda were staging their plot against me. I scrolled through my phone, saving voice recordings where Linda humiliated me during gatherings, preserving every text she had sent in the family group. I even went back to the Scottsdale jewelry boutique, where I had bought the pearl necklace. At first, the clerk hesitated, but when I showed them the refund log bearing Linda's name, they agreed to print the receipt. It clearly listed the date and time Linda returned the gift and received cash. My hands trembled holding that paper. It was proof that her actions weren't just cruel, but deliberately deceitful. The second phase was align. I knew I couldn't stand alone. I reached out to Kelly, who not only listened, but also helped me refine how to present the evidence clearly and in a way no one could dispute. She helped me build a timeline, piece by piece, from the gift being thrown away to Amanda's internal email. I also turned to Uncle David, a retired physician Linda had once dismissed, but who was deeply respected by the family. When I told him everything, he was silent for a long time before resting a firm hand on my shoulder. "You've endured enough," he said. "This time, let me stand as your witness." That promise gave me strength I hadn't felt in years. The third phase was gamble. This was the riskiest move, creating a situation where Linda and Amanda couldn't prepare. I decided to host a family reunion dinner under the guise of reconciliation. I called the manager of an Italian restaurant in downtown Phoenix, booked a private dining room, and requested a projector and sound system. I also prepared a new gift for Linda, a second pearl necklace, complete with the original receipt. Every detail was set like a trap. I pictured it vividly. Linda opening the box, her familiar sneer forming, and then, at my signal, the screen lighting up with evidence. The refund receipt, the transaction log, Amanda's internal email, and the recordings of Linda's insults. I wanted her exposed in front of everyone, at the very dinner I had invited them to. And by the Hayes family's own rule, once guilt was proven, the wrongdoer had to apologize publicly. That would be the final blow. But before reaching that moment, I had to prepare for risks. I knew Linda might play the victim, tears rolling as she begged for sympathy. Amanda might flatly deny everything, insisting the email was fabricated. Michael, under family pressure, might side with his mother. Worst of all, the restaurant's projector could fail, shattering my plan halfway through. I also worried some might argue that using emails and recordings was invasive, even though they related directly to her public humiliations. Each risk hung over me like a knife, suspended by a thread. Kelly and I strategized late into the night, mapping out contingency after contingency. She told me, if they deny it, you need something so irrefutable that no one can argue. But remember, keep one last piece hidden. Don't reveal it early. I nodded. I already had that ace, a secret no one else knew. It would be my final strike if everything else failed. I sealed it in an envelope, locked it in my drawer, and waited for the day. In the days that followed, I worked my night shifts at the hospital while quietly polishing my plan. Each time I walked the long corridors under the harsh fluorescent lights, I reminded myself, I am no longer the passive one. The shame from that birthday had hardened into a cold, steely resolve. I had thought I was in control of every detail. But then an unexpected twist struck, threatening to unravel everything. Early one morning, as I was preparing for work, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message froze me in place. I know you're collecting evidence. If you don't stop, I'll tell the whole family you're fabricating lies to smear Linda. Stop while you still can. I gripped the phone, my heart racing wildly. Who had sent it? Amanda, or another relative she had pulled into her side? An unseen hand had just reached into the plan I thought was airtight. And in that instant, I understood. The game had become far more dangerous than I ever imagined. I had prepared for that night the way a surgeon prepares for the most critical operation of their life. Everything had to be precise, every detail aligned, and every risk anticipated. In my mind, the plan was broken down step by step, exactly as I had written in my notebook. Collect, align, gamble, reveal, demand, exit. Now it was time to bring those pages to life. The first step, collect, had already been completed. The refund receipt, the transaction log, Amanda's internal email, and the recordings of Linda insulting me. All of it was carefully organized into a folder, labeled in order, backed up on both a USB drive and my phone. I even printed several hard copies just in case. The second step, align, was about allies. Kelly sat at the front table near the projector, ready to assist if anything technical went wrong. Uncle David had promised to stand as moderator, ensuring I wouldn't be shouted down. These two were my lifelines in a room that could easily turn into a battlefield. The third step, gamble, was the invitation itself. I sent cards to the entire Hayes family, announcing a reconciliation and appreciation dinner I would host. Everyone was surprised, Linda included. She even called me, suspicion dripping in her tone. Rachel, are you really sure you want to do this? I answered calmly, yes, Mom, I want to start fresh. I caught the mocking laugh on the other end of the line, and I knew I had struck the exact chord she wanted to hear. That night, the private dining room at the Italian restaurant glowed with bright lights. A long table covered in white linen stretched across the room, each place decorated with vases of white lilies. Linda's favorite. Every detail was chosen to fool her into believing this was a genuine attempt at peace. She swept in, stylishly dressed, Amanda trailing smugly behind, while Michael looked uneasy, clearly confused by my sudden change in demeanor. The fourth step, reveal, began when I stood up, holding out a carefully wrapped gift box for Linda. Happy birthday again, Mom. I hope this one will please you. Linda smirked, slowly opening the box. Inside was a brand new pearl necklace, complete with its receipt. The room went quiet. At that exact moment, I signaled the staff to start the projector. The first slide appeared, a refund receipt from the boutique, Linda Hayes' name and the exact date stamped clearly. Whispers rippled through the room. I spoke firmly. This is proof that the gift I gave was returned for cash. Next came the electronic transaction log, followed by Amanda's email to Linda. With each piece of evidence, the murmurs grew louder. Evidence, projected email 7:44 p.m., Amanda wrote. If Michael believes Rachel is incompetent, you'll easily control his accounts. Linda's face drained of color. Amanda shifted nervously before blurting, this could all be forged. Who knows where Rachel even got these? Right then, disaster struck. A major setback that dropped my heart into my stomach. The projector suddenly went dark, the speakers popped and crackled, and then everything shut off. The technician scrambled, apologizing, sorry, the system just failed. Linda seized the moment, slamming her hand on the table. See? It's all fabricated. She staged this to slander me, and now even the machines prove it. Some relatives nodded, leaning toward her side. I felt the weight of collapse pressing hard on me. In that instant, I forced myself to breathe deeply, holding back panic. I walked calmly to Kelly's table, pulled out the hard copy folder I had prepared for exactly this scenario, and handed the documents to Uncle David. His voice rang out steady and strong as he read each aloud. This is the refund receipt, signed by Linda. This is the electronic log confirmed by the store. This is Amanda's internal email to Linda. The room fell silent. No laughter, no whispers. Linda tried to cut in. It's all fabricated, but I stepped forward, laying down a printed copy, stamped with the boutique's red seal, the official mark I had secured when I revisited the store. Seeing the seal, several relatives nodded, their faces shifting to belief. I lifted my chin, speaking evenly. I don't need a projector. I have the truth in my hands. My words stopped Linda cold, while Amanda gripped the edge of her chair as if her knuckles white. The fifth step demand was now. I turned squarely to Linda. By the Hayes family rule, whoever is wrong must apologize publicly. I have endured enough humiliation. I want you to honor that rule here and now. The air thickened. Every eye fixed on Linda. Her face flushed crimson, lips pressed tight. Amanda tried to salvage the moment. This isn't a courtroom. We don't have to make a spectacle of it. But Uncle David countered firmly, it was Linda herself who made this rule. Now, it must be applied fairly. Linda sank back into her chair, her glare sharp as daggers. I knew she wouldn't surrender easily. She would thrash, cry, or play the victim. I also knew that even with all I had shown, I still needed one last strike, a final piece that left no escape. That was the ace I had been saving, the card no one had yet seen. The plan had nearly collapsed when the screen went dark, but by adapting, I had pulled it back together. Now the family waited, all eyes demanding an answer from Linda, while I still held on to my hidden secret. Everything rested on one last move. The private dining room of the Italian restaurant that evening turned into a courtroom in miniature. Golden light washed over the long white draped table, and the tension etched across every family member's face was unmistakable. The laughter and clinking glasses that usually filled gatherings were gone. Silence reigned. All eyes were fixed on Linda Hayes, the 55-year-old matriarch sitting at the head, her face flushed red with fury and shame. I rose to my feet, taking a steady breath, my hands trembling slightly, though my voice came out firm. You have used every way possible to humiliate me. You called my gift cheap, threw it into the trash in front of everyone. You spread the story everywhere, turning me into a laughingstock. But tonight, I will show everyone the truth. I began presenting the evidence, one piece at a time, like hammer blows breaking down a wall of lies. This is the refund email from the Scottsdale jewelry boutique, showing Linda Hayes' name. I held the paper high. Murmurs rippled through the room. This is the transaction log, confirming the pearl necklace I gave was returned. I laid the log on the table in front of Uncle David. His voice rang out, crisp and clear, as he read for everyone to hear. This is the family group message, where you said I would never measure up to Amanda. My eyes locked on Linda's, my voice shaking but resolute. And this? I lifted another sheet, the whole room leaning in. This is Amanda's internal email to Linda, plotting to control Michael's finances and shut me out of decisions. Linda shot up, screaming. All of this is fake. Rachel fabricated it. She wants to tear this family apart. Amanda rushed to join in. How can anyone trust a night shift nurse to know about finance or offices? Clearly, she's making this up. I didn't let them twist the moment. From my bag, I drew out a thick envelope, opening it deliberately. You can doubt those, but this cannot be denied. I revealed a silver USB drive. This is the surveillance footage from the boutique, showing Linda herself returning the necklace for cash. Evidence master, security camera, 3:20 p.m. Linda enters the boutique, hands over the gift box, signs the receipt. The clerk hands her cash. Her face is clear on the screen, beyond dispute. Some relatives gasped, mouths falling open. The restaurant manager plugged in the USB to the backup screen. The footage flickered to life, sharp and damning. Linda at the counter, silver box in hand, pen scratching across the refund slip, and then money slipping into her purse. No one in the room could say it was staged. I turned, my voice cold. You called me a liar, but the camera shows who the liar truly is. The room erupted with shocked chatter. One relative rose. My God, has she been deceiving us like this all along? Another shook their head, disappointed. Linda, you shamed Rachel and tried to control your own son's finances? Linda staggered back, her face pale. Amanda kept her eyes down, clearly out of excuses. Michael, silent for so long, finally stood, his voice trembling but firm. Mom, I've defended you too many times, but tonight the truth is clear. I won't let you humiliate my wife again. Those words struck like the final blow against Linda's crumbling authority. She sank into her chair, eyes blazing at me, then sweeping the room where every gaze had turned away from her. Uncle David stepped forward, his voice ringing. By the Hayes rule, the guilty must apologize publicly. Linda, you've used that rule to shame others for years. Now it is time to follow it yourself. There was no escape. Linda bowed her head, her voice hoarse. Rachel, I'm sorry. But the apology had no dignity, no power, only the sound of a fallen matriarch confessing in humiliation before those who once upheld her. Amanda tried to salvage herself. I only meant well, I just wanted to help. But the evidence of her email was undeniable. A relative cut her off. Meant well? That was a conspiracy, and you share the blame. I stood still, watching Linda and Amanda cornered, and the satisfaction wasn't the triumph I had imagined. Yet the truth was out. My honor restored, and the family finally saw the faces behind the masks. Consequences struck instantly. Linda was forced to apologize, stripped of the respect she had carefully built. Amanda's image as the perfect daughter-in-law collapsed into that of a schemer. Michael stood openly at my side, breaking the hold Linda had clung to for years. That night in that dining room, justice was delivered, not with shouting or violence, but with undeniable truth. I lifted my head high, meeting Linda's gaze, showing her that from now on, I was no longer the victim. I was the one setting boundaries, and no one would ever cross them again. The family sat in heavy silence afterward, the faint clink of cutlery the only sound, like the beating heart of a body that had just survived a storm. Linda bowed her head, Amanda stayed silent. Michael sat beside me, his hand clasping mine tightly, and I knew in that moment everything had shifted. Justice served. After that night, the shockwaves spread like ripples that couldn't be stopped. Linda Hayes, once holding invisible power over the family, suddenly found herself isolated. From that evening on, the casual phone calls from relatives stopped, dinner invitations dwindled. Her personal reputation and her business name in the Scottsdale community began to crumble. A few longtime clients caught wind of the dinner incident, and their trust vanished. The once busy real estate office grew quiet, deals canceled one after another. Linda was forced to face the truth. The control and vanity she had clung to had become a burden driving people away. Amanda fared no better. From the model daughter-in-law, she now faced skeptical stares. No one believed her sweet smiles anymore, not after the emails and evidence had exposed her complicity. Amanda chose silence, avoiding family gatherings entirely. As for me, Rachel Morgan, after everything, I finally found my new normal. A more balanced life. I no longer trembled stepping into Linda's house. Michael and I agreed. Any meeting with his mother would take place in public, with witnesses present. I learned to say no when pushed around, to set boundaries clearly. Most importantly, I no longer allowed my dignity to be trampled without a response. The family now looked at me differently. with respect. Through it all, there was one part that kept some humanity intact. Michael, though timid and indecisive at first, stood tall when it mattered most. He was the only one who dared face his mother, declaring to everyone that he would protect me. That didn't erase the past disappointments, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter. I realized Michael was not a bad man, only a son torn between filial duty and marriage. His choice to side with his wife at the critical moment was his way of redemption. I looked ahead, knowing life would never be perfect, but at least now I had reclaimed my voice and my place. As for Linda, though she might continue to resist, she had to learn a lesson. Once the truth is exposed, no power can stop the downfall. And the Hayes family, after the storm, had to accept one undeniable fact. I was no longer the outsider. Respect is the greatest gift in any family. When the truth is on your side, transparency becomes the most powerful and lasting revenge. That is the lesson I carried with me after everything. Sometimes, you don't need to scream or strike back with violence. Just let the light shine on the darkness, and those who thought themselves untouchable will collapse on their own. But what about you? If it were you, would you choose to stay silent for the sake of peace, or would you stand up and fight for your voice? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be the strength someone else needs to face their own battle. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to True Revenge Stories to hear more gripping revenge stories every single day. You can keep exploring more intense and dramatic tales in the playlist we've arranged for you, where each episode is a journey of twists, shocks, and justice, served in ways no one saw coming. Let's spread these stories of justice together, so no one ever has to feel alone in the fight to claim the respect they deserve.